Hello and welcome to YouTube. This is a bit strange. First day of the holidays, and I'm going to start off at chapter 17, which is where we left off at school. If you're reading along, it's page 178. A dinosaur in the house. The Christmasaurus landed with a crash in the fireplace. Luckily, the fire hadn't been lit, because Mr. Trundle knew that you should never light a fire on your Christmas Eve. The dinosaur got to his feet and stepped out into William's empty living room. The Christmasaurus had never been in a room like this before. He'd only ever known the large, oversized, magical rooms of the North Pole Ranch, and they were far grander than this wonky little room. But there was something he instantly liked about it. Something felt cosy, warm, happy. He could sense that the people who lived here were full of love. But there wasn't time to look around. He was desperate to see Stuffy one last time. He had to find his toy, say goodbye and get back up to the sleigh before Santa caught him. He was being very naughty. His dinosaur eyes scanned the room, searching for any sign of the spotty wrapping paper or shiny red ribbon. But there was nothing. There was a small Christmas tree, about the size of an elf. He'd never seen one so tiny before, which had a scattering of small presents underneath it. But none of them were stuffy. Santa must have put it in William's room. The Christmasaurus knew that Santa did that sometimes. So he tiptoed out of the living room, sniffing the beige-patterned carpet, following the scent of Santa, who smelt like fresh mint chocolate and tangerines. The door next to the room was slightly ajar, and through the crack the Christmasaurus could just make out the shape of a small bed. Sitting in a sliver of moonbeam on the bedroom floor was the beautifully wrapped dinosaur-shaped present for which he was searching. He slipped inside William's bedroom, but paused for a moment to take in all the wonderful dinosaur pictures and toys and books and posters and wallpaper. He'd never seen so much dinosaur stuff before. It was dinosaur-some. Picture of his room there. As his eyes circled the room, they came back to Stuffy, perfectly wrapped on the bedroom floor. He crept across the room as carefully as he could until he was face to face with where the stuffed dinosaur's nose would be. Through a small slit in the wrapping paper, he could just make out the soft glow of the toy's golden button eyes staring out. The Christmasaurus took a deep breath. This was it. This was goodbye. Goodbye to the first and only dinosaur friend he'd ever had. He gave it a crumpled hug through the wrapping paper, and over its cuddly shoulder he saw William lying snugly asleep in his bed. It was at that moment that the Christmasaurus suddenly felt a funny feeling in his tummy, like the sinking sort of feeling you get when you drive over a bridge really fast. He glanced round the room at the photos of William and Mr. Trundle, then at the empty wheelchair next to the bed. He huffed a deep sigh through his nostrils, then straightened up the present so it looked as close to elf perfect as possible. It was time to let Stuffy go. That's when he heard it. Flush! Stomp! Stomp! It was the unmistakable sound of the toilet flushing, followed by Santa's boots stomping speedily down the hallway. Stomp! 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 He was marching faster, and the Christmasaurus saw his jolly round shadow pass William's bedroom door. Santa was already in the living room. "Ooh, a carrot, my favourite," he heard Santa whisper before crunching into the treat. The Christmasaurus panicked. If he didn't make it back up onto the roof before Santa, then he would be left behind. He turned clumsily on the spot and, with a thud, his long tail swung round behind him, knocking off every book on William's bookshelf. All books about dinosaurs, of course. Then he took a great leap towards the door, but his clunky dinosaur claws got caught in Stuffy's wrapping ribbon, and the Christmasaurus went tumble-bumbling across to the other side of the bedroom, smash-whacking into the wardrobe. As you can imagine, this made such a clatter that William woke up in an instant. What's going on?" he said through a yawn, rubbing his sleepy eyes open. As the room came into focus, William saw a large, spotty present sitting beyond the foot of his bed, hand tied with a red ribbon. But the ribbon had come undone. His eyes followed the loose red ribbon along the floor until it reached a large, scaly foot. The ribbon was caught around the Christmasaurus's claw, all tangled in knots. Before William could blink, before he could even scream, before he could think, before he could do anything whatsoever, the Christmasaurus bolted out of the room at 100 miles an hour, dragging the present behind him. William scrambled out of bed into his waiting wheelchair and chased after them. The Christmasaurus burst into the small, cosy living room, just in time to see Santa's big black boots disappear magically up the chimney. He roared a panicked roar and dived towards the fireplace, trampling over presents and tripping over the miniature Christmas tree in the process, sending decorations flying through the air and scattering over the floor. But that didn't stop the Christmasaurus. He crawled into the fireplace and looked up the chimney, which now seemed far too small for even an elf to get through. He tried desperately to jump, climb and claw his way up to it, but it was no use. Santa's magic had worn off and the chimney flue had deflated back to its normal size. Then came the worst noise of all. The clopping of hooves accompanied by soft Christmas music echoed down the chimney, then all of a sudden seemed to disappear completely. The Christmasaurus let out a howl-like roar up the chimney and into the sky above, but it was too late. They had gone. The Christmasaurus had been left behind. It was at that moment that a bright, round light switched on like a spotlight. It was a shaky, wobbly light. It was coming from a torch in William's nervous hands as he sat in his wheelchair at the door, looking at a dinosaur in his home. Chapter 18. A Boy and a Dinosaur. They stayed perfectly still, staring at each other. William and the Christmasaurus, a boy and a dinosaur, face to face for the first time in history. Neither of them knew what to do or say. Then suddenly William let out a frightened "ah!" and the Christmasaurus released a scared "roar!" They both sat roaring and screaming at each other for what felt like the longest time, until eventually they both ran out of breath and stopped. They searched each other's faces, and although neither of them knew what they were searching for, they found that they were both just as frightened as each other, which suddenly made them not scared of each other at all. It's funny how things work like that. "William, what's all that noise?" croaked a sleepy Mr. Trundle from upstairs. William looked into the dinosaur's big, frightened blue eyes. "Nothing, Dad, just a dream," William replied, at his best attempt at sounding casual. There was a pause that seemed to last forever. "Oh, okay," Mr. Trundle yawned. "Well, get some sleep or Santa won't come." And with that, William heard his dad's bedroom door close. "Hello," William said quietly, as he wheeled himself slowly into the living room over the piles of festive debris that now decorated the floor. He rolled closer to the fireplace, and he couldn't believe his eyes. There, right in front of him, was an actual, living, breathing dinosaur. How was that possible? Not only that, he was the most awesome-looking dinosaur William had ever seen. He had smooth, icy scales and big blue eyes, like a wintry lion. But he was currently tangled from head to tail in ribbon and wrapping paper, tinsel and fairy lights. The dinosaur was decorated like a Christmas tree. As William got closer, he saw that there was a tag very loosely stuck to the dinosaur's back. It said, "For William, from Santa." "No way," William whispered. "I never in my wildest dreams thought Santa would actually bring me a real dinosaur." Suddenly, he found the courage to reach out his hand to stroke the dinosaur. But just as his hand got to a millimetre away from the dinosaur's long, smooth nose, the creature turned to look at something through the window. William followed his gaze. Something small and red was zooming across the sky. The Christmasaurus burst into a run once again, this time heading out of the living room towards the front door. He scrambled and skidded on all the decorations and bits of plastic Christmas tree, becoming more tangled as he went. Suddenly, William felt a sharp yank and his wheelchair spun round on the spot. "Oh no, wait!" he screamed. He looked down and saw that the other end of the fairy lights and tinsel that were wrapped around the dinosaur had become tangled around his wheelchair. He was attached to the dinosaur. His wheelchair lurched forwards as he was suddenly dragged across the living room and into the hallway. all William could do was hold on for dear life as the panicked and determined dinosaur launched full speed ahead towards the front door. "Stop! Wait!" cried William. "The front door is locked." But that didn't matter. The Christmasaurus bowed his hard, scaly head, and in one massive bam, he burst through the door, pulling William and his wheelchair through the dinosaur-shaped hole and into the snowy street. The Christmasaurus searched the sky for Santa's sleigh as he ran. It was cloudy now and difficult to see anything, but there it was. Just for a split second, it poked through a break in the clouds, shiny and red, zooming through the sky. It must have been moonlight reflecting on the red paint of the sleigh. He gave chase, sprinting as fast as his dinosaur legs would carry him, littering the streets with broken baubles that were flying off from the strings tangled around his body. He skidded round the icy corners with William whizzing along behind him. William used the brakes on his wheelchair to avoid lampposts, parked cars, post boxes, and the occasional cat as they accelerated through the town. The Christmasaurus couldn't see the sleigh anymore. It was above the snow clouds and getting away. There was only one thing for it, the Christmasaurus. He was going to have to fly. He'd seen the reindeer do it 1,000,000 times. He'd spent his whole life dreaming of flying, and tonight was his night. He could feel it. He put his head down and started a strange reindeer-like gallop. "What are you doing?" cried William as he got a face full of snow kicked up by the crazed dinosaur. He brushed the snow from his eyes just in time to see the Christmasaurus take a deep breath, his strides getting longer and higher, higher and longer. Then, at the side of the road, the Christmasaurus spotted some sort of ramp that was being used for roadworks. It was a perfect takeoff ramp. The Christmasaurus headed straight for the ramp and galloped up it as fast as he could, his eyes set on his target, the sky. William couldn't believe what he was seeing. This dinosaur is bonkers. He doesn't have wings, he isn't a reindeer, he can't fly, William thought to himself as he held on tight to the armrests of his wheelchair, too scared to let go to buckle his seatbelt. As the dinosaur reached the end of the ramp, he took an almighty leap into the air, pulling William in his wheelchair off the ground. Smash! They came crashing down in a pile of rubble, sending a mixture of dust and Christmas sparkles into the air. William only just managed to keep his chair from tipping over. They didn't fly, just as William had thought. As the glittery dust settled, the clouds parted for a moment, just long enough for them to see the red flashing lights of an aeroplane fly overhead. It wasn't the sleigh after all. The Christmasaurus let out a sad, lost roar, and William put his arm out and gave him a comforting stroke. It was the first time he'd ever touched a dinosaur. His skin was bumpy, but smooth at the same time. Warm, but also cool. Magical. "Were you trying to fly?" William asked. The Christmasaurus nodded, ashamed that he'd failed. "Oh, I'm really sorry, but I don't believe dinosaurs like you can fly," William said. The Christmasaurus looked sad. Something about William's words seemed to hurt. William saw that he was upset and instinctively put his arms around the dinosaur's solid, strong neck and gave him a hug. "It's okay, I know how you feel," whispered William, and he gently stroked the dinosaur's head. That was the moment that William and the Christmasaurus became friends. But the boy and the dinosaur had something else in common. They both just heard a noise. Someone else was in the street with them.